You checked your phone last night. Not because a notification came through, no sound, no light. You just reached for it in the dark for no reason you could actually explain. And when you put it back down and closed your eyes, the quiet that followed was not restful. It was the specific kind of quiet that has a shape to it, that has a name in it. You know whose name? And you've been very careful not to say it too loudly, even to yourself. So, something arrived last night. Something your waking mind was not ready to process. And so it waited. It sat at the outer edge of your sleep, and it knocked quietly. And every time you almost drifted off, it knocked again. Not urgently, not desperately, with the particular patience of something that has basically stopped being in a hurry. It knew you would feel it. Eventually, you did. And honestly, that feeling was not yours alone. Right now, not yesterday, not someday, right now as you're reading this, there is someone sitting with something. Something they've been carrying in silence for longer than they planned to. It started small. A noticing. A moment of attention that lasted a second too long. A thought that arrived without invitation and simply never left. It has been growing in them. Quietly, the way things grow when no one is watching. The way something can become enormous inside a person before anyone on the outside has any idea it's even there. And last night, it became too heavy to carry the way they'd been carrying it. But before I tell you about them, I need to tell you about you. Okay? Because you're not going to receive what is coming unless you understand who you actually are right now. Not who you were. Not who you're trying to become. Who you are right now. You are someone who has gotten very good at a particular skill. A skill nobody taught you. Nobody praised you for. The skill of being fine. You've basically mastered the performance of fine. You walk into rooms. You're warm. You're present. You contribute. You laugh at the right moments. And nobody, almost nobody, can tell that underneath all of that, there is a version of you that went quiet a while ago. A version that used to want things openly, used to say so. Used to actually let people see the wanting. And then something happened. Maybe one thing. Maybe a series of things dressed up as coincidences that were actually one long lesson. And after that, you stopped letting the wanting show. Not because you stopped wanting. You never stopped. You just moved it somewhere safer. Somewhere interior. Somewhere that cannot be seen, and therefore cannot be used against you. You kept it alive in private. The way you keep something valuable when you're not sure the neighborhood is safe, that is not damage. That is intelligence applied to survival. Right? But here's what nobody has actually said to you. And I need to say it. Because it's sitting right here and I cannot move past it. That same intelligence, that same careful management of what you let people see. It has been costing you something you did not agree to pay. Not the wrong people. Not the ones who would have hurt you. The right ones. The ones who stood at the edge of your life. Looked in. Genuinely wanted to be there. And could not find the door. Because you are so extraordinarily good at looking like you don't need anyone, that even the people who could feel that you did began to doubt what they felt. You made it look too easy. Being alone, being self-sufficient, being the one who is always okay. You made it look so easy that some people actually believed you. So, there is a specific thing that happens when this person is near you. I want to describe this carefully because this detail matters. Actually, this might be the most important thing I say in this entire reading. Their body changes, not in an obvious way, not in a way anyone else would clock, but if you paid attention, and some part of you has been paying attention, whether you admitted it or not, you would have noticed it. The way they go slightly still when you enter a space. Not frozen, just quieter than they were a second before. Like something in them recognizes something in you before their conscious mind has even caught up. Like a phone connecting to a signal it's been searching for. The noise in them settles. They don't know how to explain this. They've tried. In the privacy of their own head, they've tried to name what happens to them when you're nearby. And every time they reach for the word, it kind of slides away from them. Not because the feeling is vague, because it's too specific for the ordinary words they have available. What they feel is not attraction the way they've felt attraction before. This is different. And they know it's different. And that knowledge is the thing that's been keeping them awake. Because different means something, right? Different means they cannot file this away under temporary and move on. Different means it's going to keep being there tomorrow and the day after and every day after that until they do something about it. Last night, they almost did something about it. They picked up their phone. They went to your name. They typed something true, the truest thing they've wanted to say to you since this started. And they sat there in the dark. This true thing typed out. Ready. Thumb hovering. Thinking about every possible way you could respond. They thought about the version where you don't respond the way they hope. And they closed it. Not because they don't mean it. Because they mean it so much. That the wrong version of it, sent too soon, received wrong, landing in a moment where you're not ready, feels like a risk they just cannot afford. Like showing someone your most valuable thing in a room you're not sure is safe yet. They will send it? Not today, maybe. But the decision has basically already been made. Last night in the dark, with that unsent message sitting in a closed window, something crossed in them. The part of them that was managing this carefully reached its limit, and what replaced it was something quieter and more certain. The knowing that they are going to try. Okay. Now, I need to say something you're probably not going to want to hear, not because it's bad news, because it's going to require you to be honest with yourself about something you've been very comfortable leaving unexamined. You have a feeling about this person, not the surface feeling, not the one you let yourself think about for 30 seconds before you redirect to something practical. the one underneath. The one that's been there since, you know when. Since a specific early moment you filed away under, do not make this into something, because making it into something felt dangerous. And you'd been dangerous before. And you knew what that cost. You've been managing that feeling for a long time now. Very responsible. Very mature. Very careful not to project. Not to assume. Not to want something into existence that hadn't been confirmed. You've talked yourself down from it so many times. You've gotten kind of efficient at it. 20 seconds, sometimes 10. The feeling rises. You redirect. You function, and you tell yourself, you're being sensible. Here's what sensible has actually been doing. It has been protecting you from a feeling that did not need protection from you. It needed permission, and you have been the one withholding it. That half second before you check your phone when their name appears, before your eyes even focus, your whole body has already made a decision. You feel it. That tiny lurch. That shift in your chest. That happens before your brain has had time to construct a single thought. You felt it every time. And every time, you've chosen sensible over the thing your body already knew. What if sensible has been wrong this whole time? Sit with that. Not the anxious version of that question. The still version. The one that doesn't immediately run to all the ways things could go badly. The version that simply asks, what if? So, something else is here. It's been here since I started. I mean, I've felt it, sitting underneath everything. And I have to name it now. There is a third presence in this situation. Not the person who has feelings for you. Someone else. Someone who exists at the edges of this connection. Close enough to feel it developing. Close enough to understand what it actually means. And they are not at peace with it. This is not about jealousy in the simple sense. This is about someone who had a version of access to your life or to their life that is being threatened by what is forming between you. And people who are losing access do not always lose it quietly. They do things. Small things. Precise things. The kind that's very easy to dismiss as coincidence in the moment, but leaves a residue you cannot quite shake afterward. A comment that seemed harmless, but landed wrong. A question that did not need to be asked, but was. A moment of presence that arrived exactly when space was beginning to open between you, and closed it. Before it could become anything. You may have already felt this, without having the framework to name it. Right? Here's the framework. What is forming between you is real enough to threaten someone. Real things attract interference. Small things, things going nowhere, things that don't matter. Nobody interferes with those. Nobody spends energy disrupting something that is not a threat. The interference is the confirmation. You are not imagining the connection. Someone else has already seen it clearly enough to try to prevent it. That is all you need to know. You don't need to confront this person. You don't need to protect yourself aggressively. You simply need to stop giving that interference the weight of evidence. Stop letting someone else's fear of what you might become to each other become your reason for doubting it. Their fear is not your truth. Let me tell you what you actually are right now. Not what you've been through. Not what shaped you. What you actually are in this moment as a result of all of it. You are someone with a calibration that most people spend their whole lives trying to develop and never do. Not think, actually know what it feels like when someone is present versus performing presence. When someone is choosing you versus choosing not to be alone. When something is real versus when something is very convincingly pretending to be real. You paid for that calibration. The price was high. The payment was not optional. And there were moments in the middle of paying it where you genuinely wondered if you were going to come out the other side as something recognizable. You did. More than recognizable. Refined. And here is what that calibration is telling you right now. If you stop talking over it long enough to actually hear it, this is different. Not different the way you've told yourself things were different before, when they weren't. Different in the way that has no accompanying anxiety. Different in the way that feels less like excitement and more like recognition. Like something your system has been scanning for has finally appeared on the screen. And every sensor you have is simply registering it. Calmly. Certainly. Without the frantic quality that comes with wanting something that is not quite right. Here's the thing. When it is wrong, you feel the effort of it. You're not feeling the effort. So, there is a conversation coming. Not the kind you engineer. Not the kind you plan or prepare for or carefully maneuver toward. The kind that simply arrives. Often sideways. Often in a moment that looks completely ordinary from the outside. And announces itself by the quality of quiet that falls in the middle of it. The kind where something true gets said, maybe in very few words, and the air changes. And you both feel the air change. And neither of you pretends you didn't. You will not need to be told what it means when it happens. Your body will have already processed it, already answered, already moved toward the thing your mind has been carefully holding at arm's length for months. And in that moment, everything you spent so long managing and minimizing and filing under probably nothing is going to resolve. Not into certainty exactly, into something better than certainty. Into rightness. The specific feeling of something arriving that was always supposed to arrive. Not a surprise. A recognition. The feeling of turning a corner. And finding something there that some part of you somehow already knew would be waiting. You're going to understand in that moment why it took this long. Not because the universe was being slow, because both of you needed to arrive at it from a place of knowing rather than needing. From having chosen your own wholeness first. From being someone who is not loving from scarcity, but from fullness. You are at fullness now. That is what last night was actually telling you. So, you loved people before who held your love carelessly. Not because you chose badly, because you loved before you had the information you have now, before you understood the difference between someone who wants you and someone who wants what you make them feel. Before you developed the specific capacity to sit with uncertainty long enough to see which one you were actually dealing with. You're not that version of yourself anymore. You did not fall for the wrong people because something in you was broken. You loved genuinely in the direction of people who were not built to hold it. And every time something that was not built to hold your love proved it couldn't. That was not rejection. That was your life protecting you from a permanent version of something that was never going to be enough. You've been through enough. The account is settled. What is approaching you now is not a lesson. It is not a test wearing the costume of a gift. It is not something that's going to ask you to be less or smaller or more convenient than you are. It is something that was made for the full size of what you actually are. And that is rare. That is worth the whole long road of everything that was not it. Last night, when you reached for your phone in the dark, that was not habit. That was your body already knowing something. Your mind was still deciding whether to admit. The pull you felt at the edge of sleep was not anxiety about something going wrong. It was the feeling of something finally going right. Something that has been in motion longer than you know. Crossing into the range where you can finally feel it. The way a sound exists below hearing for a long time, before it becomes audible. Not a new sound. A sound that was always there. You are close enough to hear it now. And the person who could not sleep last night, who typed something true and did not send it, who lay in the dark understanding that they are going to have to eventually say the real thing. They can hear it too. Something is different today than it was yesterday. Both of you feel it. Neither of you has said it. But the space between feeling it and saying it, it is smaller than it has ever been. You already know what this is. You've known for a while. The only thing left is to stop pretending you don't. And hey, before you go, if something in this landed in a place that didn't move when you tried to shake it, that means something. Don't brush past that. It found you for a reason. So, if this is your first time here, hi, I'm Lily. And honestly, this is just what I do. Not surface readings, not vague, feel-good content. Real energy. Real cards. Real messages. For the person who actually needs to hear it that day. If that sounds like something you want more of, hit subscribe. It costs you nothing, and it means these readings keep finding you when you need them most. And if this one resonated, like this video, not just for the algorithm, though honestly that does help, but because it tells me this kind of depth is what you're here for. And I'll keep going deeper. One more thing. Think of someone in your world right now who's been quietly carrying something heavy in their chest and hasn't told anyone. Send this to them. No explanation needed. Just send it. They'll know exactly why. Before they reach the last line, I'll see you in the next one.